I hosted the biggest cash game in Fort Card Room history and invited my good friend and fellow content creator Rampage to come along. I'm in for a whopping $25,000 and Rampage managed to one-up me and buy in for a titanic $50,000. By the end of the night, there's over 250 grand on the table, and one of us even breaks the record for the largest cash out in Fort Card Room history. But let's rewind all the way back to the beginning when I immediately looked down at pocket queens. The $200 straddle is on. I open it up to $500, and my good buddy Ethan immediately applies pressure with a raise to $3,000. Reet gets out of the way. The action is back over to me. A 4-bet would make the most amount of sense. I'm torn between 4-betting and calling, but in position against Rampage, sounds like I'm just gonna put in the call here. The flop gives me second pair on a monochrome all heart board, king 3 deuce, and he does continue to fire, this time for $2,000.
Do you know if you have 2 hearts or 1 heart?
I've looked, yeah.
You know? I don't know.
It's a great price. I put in the call, and the turn comes the jack of diamonds. Really shouldn't change too much unless he has king jack suited, so when he fires out for $7,000, I obviously don't snap call him, but I'm never going anywhere. I toss in the call once again, and just like that, there's $25,000 in the middle in the very first hand of the night, and the river comes an inconsequential 5 of clubs, and doesn't think too long before jamming for my remaining $13,000. So, are we trying to play for everything in the very first hand against Rampage? Why does he have to apply maximum pressure straight out of the gate here? I was hoping to, kind of coast a little bit, find myself in some good spots and maybe chip up, but we're playing a $50,000 pot straight out of the gate because of course I'm not gonna fold pocket queens. With the queen of hearts, something just feels up here. After a little bit of some thought, I find the call and he mucks his cards face down. So you guys will have to check out his vlog to see what he had there. He didn't tell me in the moment, but $50,000, you guys, that is a ton of money. It really helps my mental state in this big game, just be able to make good decisions now that I'm playing with a little bit of house, aka Rampage money. All right, next hand, ace queen of clubs, and Ethan straddles to $200. I make it $500 to go, and he puts in the call. When the flop comes ace king 3 with 2 diamonds, I bet out for $500, and Ethan calls once again. When the turn comes a 9 of hearts, I decide to check behind. The river comes a deuce of hearts, and Ethan bets out for $3,000. I decide to flick in the 1 chip, snap calling him, and I'm very surprised to see that he does have me beat with king 9. My check back on the turn worked out to perfection, and it seems like I won the maximum in the first hand and I lost the minimum in the second hand. All right, let's keep battling. Ethan raises it up to $500, and I decide just to call with ace jack offsuit. We're gonna go heads up out of position against my good buddy on a very favorable flop, which comes ace 6-5 with 2 hearts. He continues betting for $600, and I put in the call. The turn comes the 8 of hearts, bringing in the front door flush draw, and I start with a check. He snap checks behind, bringing in the queen of clubs on the river, and I debate going for a bet here, but I think Ethan has shown the willingness to bluff when you check to him, but he is all the wiser by checking behind when I turn over my ace. There's just no way I'm beat here, and $2,500 is my reward. Huge news, the one-day $1 million guaranteed tournament is happening again this Sunday, May 3rd at 12:30 Pacific. The last 2 times this tournament ran, it broke $1.5 million and $2 million in total prize pools, with first place taking down over $100,000. You can enter directly on Sunday for only $218, or play one of the daily satellites for a chance to get in for way cheaper. And because it's a mystery bounty tournament, some lucky player ended up winning a $180,000 bounty in the last one, so there's multiple ways to win 6 figures all within the same day. Make sure you use code Wolfgang when signing up for a bonus. I'll post the link to play below, and I'll see you at the final table. Let's keep it moving. I make it $500, the standard open size with ace 8 of hearts. My buddy Lucas over there in seat number 1 calls, and Ethan does as well. We are going 3 ways to a king 7 deuce 1 heart board. When the action checks over to me, I fire out for half pot, $700. We're gonna get a customer, but it's not the same one as the last few hands. It's Lucas. He finds the call, and the turn comes a board pairing 7 of hearts. I really like this card because obviously I pick up the backdoor heart draw. So when Lucas checks it over to me, I don't really want to check behind here and let him win with like a one pair type of hand. So I think if he's gonna fold that hand by the river, I have to continue betting on the turn. Fire out for $2,300, just hoping the hand ends here. But there's a reason why Lucas was invited to this game. He's a fun player, a sticky one at that. He is not afraid to put chips in the middle. He finds the call. There's $7,500 now in the middle, and the river is not an ace, an 8, or a heart. So that leaves me with one option when he checks over to me. I gotta continue betting. There's $7,500 in the middle, and I fire out for $4,600, and he snap folds. There's no sweat whatsoever. Was my ace high good? We'll never know. But $12,000, you guys. I am just slowly chipping up here, and my stack is now approaching $45,000. All right, next fun spot here, and I look down at pocket tens. Ethan decides to $300 straddle.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna make it 600.
And because I own part of this card room, we're gonna let that stand.
I don't know what the fuck that one is. It's a trick move. I go 3x now, he makes 7K.
He does in fact 3-bet now to $3,000, and I put in the call. Let's take it to the streets, old buddy. The flop comes ace king 6, which should be good for his 3-betting range pre-flop, but he decides to check, and I'm not gonna take the bait. I check behind. The turn now comes a 7 of hearts, and I would expect him to start betting now on the turn, and he does. He fires out for $600. So, do I just put in the call here with third pair, or do I try to play it a little bit tricky against a hand that I don't think is ace king, ace queen? That's what I decided to do. I raised him up to $2,600 using my image of being a tighter player, and he folds his cards, and I offer to show him one card.
Top or bottom card?
All right, blind versus blind now versus old milkman on my left. He hasn't been in frame this entire session, but let's play a fun pot with him here. I look down at ace-6 offsuit from the small blind, and I make it $600 to go. Over his $200 straddle, he tosses in a bunch of black chips. We're off to a flop, which comes 10-6-3 with 2 hearts. I have middle pair, backdoor heart draw, overcard, so I start with a check, and then I call his $600 bet. The turn is great news. It's the 3 of hearts. I now pick up the flush draw. One more heart will give me the nut flush, although the board is now paired, something to take into consideration. I check it over to Milkman once again, and will he slow down? No, but I'm not worried. $2,400 is a lot of money. Blind versus blind here. The pot is now $5,000, but I just have so many cards that can help me on the river that I am going nowhere. Second pair, heart draw. I put in the call, $72.50 in the middle, but the river does not help us. Unfortunately, it's the jack of spades. I don't really think a lead from me here makes any sense, so I check it in flow over to Milkman, and he snap checks behind. Is our second pair good? I turn it over, and he's not turning his cards over, but Milkman is definitely known to do a little bit of a slow roll for a chop or a scoop, but no, he shows the 6 of diamonds and then mucks his cards. You guys, $7,200. These pots, although they seem small, they're massive. Every $7,000 pot coming into my stack makes a huge difference, and now we're up over $50,000 finally. Again, we can say that. That is crazy, you guys. Up 25 grand on the session, and what better way to celebrate than by playing the Robbie, Jack 4 suited, against my good buddy Ethan. He decides to raise it, I call, and the flop comes gin, Jack 4 deuce rainbow. He fires out for $600 on the flop. I debate going for the check raise here, but instead just put in the call, looking to do it on a further street. The turn comes the deuce of clubs, and I check it over to Ethan once again, hoping and praying he does not slow down. Please don't check behind. And he bets for $2,200. That's music to my ears, but I can't go for the check raise now for the reason of all of his overpairs having a better 2 pair. So I just call the river. Comes the queen of hearts. So now if he has a hand like ace queen, king queen that was deciding to bluff on the turn, he now has a better 2 pair than me. I check it over to him, and he snap checks behind. So I kind of feel like I'm making the minimum here. $6,300 is getting pushed my way when a very familiar sight happens, which is all of my opponents at the table just mucking their cards face down. I hope that continues. And the poker gods are on my side with the best hand in poker, aka my favorite hand, pocket sevens. I make it $500 to go. Reed is in the straddle for $200, and he puts in the call. So we're gonna go heads up to a flop, which comes 8-5-3 with 2 clubs, and he checks it over to me, $1,100 in the middle. I decide just to check behind here, and we get the bink card, 7 of spades, bang! bang, we turn a set, you guys. Action's on Reet, and he leads out for $1,000. So nice little pot-sized bet here, $1,000 into $1,100, and the action's on me. I think his 1K lead on the turn can mean a lot of things. He could have a flush draw, he could have a pair plus straight draw, he could have 2 pairs, he could have sets. And I want to charge him the maximum, so I immediately raise him up to $3,100. I think just calling here is a big mistake because it doesn't bloat the pot in the way that we want to. He finds the call, and the pot is now $7,400, and the river brings in a club. It's gross until I realize that it pairs the board. We don't give a shit that it's a club because now we have a full house, and after raising him on the turn, he now leads out for $5,500. This is obviously great news. To me, this looks like a flush, right? He would call me on the turn, and then the flush comes in, he would lead out for value. Additionally, he could have pocket 5s or pocket 3s for a boat. I'm just not saying pocket 8s because I really don't want him to have a better boat, although I think he might have just continued to raise on the turn and put it in then instead of just calling. Well, let's not think about it too much here. He bets, I have a very good hand, and of course, I'm gonna have to raise. What sizing should I go for here? We're very deep against Reet, and I decide to go for a little bit under 3x. I make it $14,000, and he snap folds. So it appears he didn't have much, but pocket 7s is the best hand in poker, and I prove once again, turning over the 7 of clubs while the pot is being pushed my way. Already, so many interesting pots have taken place tonight, you guys, but we still have a bunch more. If you guys haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you doing? I'm always trying to get myself in the best games for your guys' viewing pleasure, from the low stakes to the high stakes to private games here in Texas. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on a single video going forward. All right, ace-8 offsuit here from the big blind, and I decide just to limp in, and Milkman checks behind. The flop gives me top pair on an 8-6-3 2 spades board, and I check it over to Milkman, who fires out for $400. I debate going for a raise, but decide just to play it slow here and put in the call with what has to be the best hand at the moment. The turn now comes as 6 of hearts, and the action goes check, check, bringing in the 7 of clubs on the river. I think I need to go for a little bit of value here against a worse 8, against another pocket pair like 5s or 4s, maybe a 7, 7-9, 7-5. I fire out for $1,200, and Mason doesn't think about it for a while before raising it up to $4,125. Now, usually at low stakes, when players raise you on the river, they probably have the best hand and you should just fold 1 pair. But this is Milkman, and he didn't get the name Milkman by playing tight. And we're playing in a big game, and there's a lot of money to be won here. If I fold, he's taking out a $6,500 pot, and as you've seen throughout this session, those pots add up. So he's definitely incentivized to go for a bluff here. He's got to think about what bluffs he could have. The most obvious one is the front door spade draw missing. So at the end of the day, I'm up a bunch of money. I'm not trying to not give action. I have a really good hand when you think about it. So I put in the call, and it's just unfortunate when he says he has a straight and then backs up his statement by turning over 5 for offsuit. Blind versus blind, I guess that makes a lot of sense. Open-ended straight draw on the flop and binks it on the river. Disgusting river card for me is losing me a 10K pot, but I guess with all the winning I've been doing tonight, I can give 1 medium-sized pot to my opponents. All right, 2 hands to go, you guys, and I make it $500 with Jack 10 suited from the cutoff, 2/5 of a royal flush, and we are going to get a bunch of action here from Rampage, T, and my buddy Reet. We're going 4 ways to a flop with 2K in the middle, which gives me 2 pair on a 10-4-4 2 diamonds board, and I lead out for $1,000, half the size of the pot. Well, the pot is now $4,000 because my buddy in red over there puts in the call, and the turn comes the deuce of spades. Will I continue betting here with that front door flush draw apparent, or will I check behind? I decide to check behind, giving Ethan a little bit of rope on the river, which comes the deuce of clubs, about as safe as it can be. Front door diamonds miss, all of his pocket pairs on the flop are definitely not a boat at this point, so when he checks it over to me and there's 4K in the middle, I want to go for a polarizing sizing, trying to get him to call me light here or with a worse 10. I make it $4,000 to go. We don't get the snap call or the snap fold. He's not thinking about raising, which means when he takes off his hat and he looks frustrated, he's thinking about making a light call. And if you guys have seen any of his videos, you know he's capable of putting it in light. I'm just just hoping that once again tonight I'm taking down another pot versus my good friend, but he makes a very disciplined fold. I'm not exactly sure what he had. I'm just saying that because it had to have been light for him to be thinking about it for that long. And yeah, we're taking down the second to last hand, which brings us in to the very last one with another 2-spade variety, a7 of spades this time, and Reet makes it $500 to go. I do something a little bit odd and just call out of the small blind instead of 3-betting, which brings in Lucas as well. We're going 3 ways to a flop, and this vlog is ending with a bang because look at this. We have top pair, we have the nut flush draw, we have backdoor straight ideas with the 7, 8, 9 out there. So when it checks over to Reet, he's not a player that's going to be checking behind all too often. He fires out for $1,000, and I decide to just put in the call. Is Lucas going to call as well? No. Well, the turn comes the deuce of spades, you guys. Bang! I told you guys this session was epic, and we're finishing with a bang here. I have the nuts. No hand has me beat at the moment, and there's 3,500 in the middle, and Reet is not slowing down. He bets almost 2/3 for 2,500 bucks. So now what do? If I just call and then I check the river, he's able to check behind, and there would only be $8,500 in the middle. I think I need to check raise here. As strong as it might look, I think it's my only play. In order to get money in the middle, if he has a set, if he has a lower flush, we want to play 4 stacks. So I decide to raise him up here, and I go for $5,500, just trying to keep him on the hook while also building the size of the pot by another $3,000 out of his stack into the middle. After Peyton takes both the bets and shoves them into the middle, there's 15 grand, and the river does not pair the board, so we still have the nuts, you guys. 15 grand in the middle. Look over at his stack, and there's just a little bit too much there to shove. So now the decision point is, do I bet small, inducing him to raise, or finding a lighter call? Do I go large here, polarizing, which pretty much is only getting me called by a really good ace or 2 pair, a set or a flush, or do I bet a half size, little mergy type of bet here? And that's what I decide to do. I go for $7,500, and Reet does not think about it for more than a second. He shakes his head, tosses in one 1K chip, and when I turn over the nuts, he knows it. But it's actually a super cooler because he has 6-5 of spades, so nothing he could do there other than just call. Seeing his cards now, I wish I would have gone for a pot size bet, but it was really just trying to get called by a lot of other hands that might have been convinced to fold if I went larger. Still ending the night with a nice $30,000 pot. We started the night with our biggest pot. We ended it with our second biggest pot. Rampage and Reet are the 2 villains in the hand, but they're not a villain to me. When you're giving me that much money, how can I hate you? After that last hand, we rack up and head over to the cage in what I can confidently say is my largest cash out ever at the home card room, the Fort, here in Aledo, Texas, just west of Fort Worth. I got in for $25,000. I immediately doubled up and ran my stack all the way up to $68,475. So a profit of $43,475. My biggest win ever at the Fort card room. For what it's worth, Ethan also had a nice size win.
So how did we do today, Rampage?
In for 105, out for 137,750. So solid win. 137,750. Thanks for watching, guys.
That's what we do. We bring our friends to the Fort, and then they win. And then they go home, and then somehow they find other guys to punt it off to. Take from the Texans and give to the hustler.
So it's always good when you build a lineup around a good buddy, and he also takes down a W.
But this is an absurd amount. I don't think there's ever been a number higher at the Fort than $137,750 for a cash out. Because normally we have 1-3 games, 2-2, and 1-2, with an occasional 5-10. So if you ever want to play those games, but.
Thanks for the support, you guys. I couldn't make awesome videos without all of you guys watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button in order to see my future videos. Good luck on the felt, you guys. I hope you run as good as I did tonight. As always, I'll catch you in the next video. Peace. And don't forget to play the Gold Million this Sunday. The link to play is down below.